Sure. No, I understand.
I just sound like a real developer.
Well, I can only stream on Windows. That's a good one because I just started streaming. You're like opening entry.
Yeah, the thumbnail.
Is he seriously can't stream?
Oh, hi.
Hi. I feel like there should be other things happening.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, what?
As she slowly walks to the frame.
I was expecting like a projector or something.
Projector's right there. It's all ready. Everything's good.
Right. I can't take pictures from over here, so I'm gonna have to walk through this.
Yeah, it's a tight space. What can I say? It's nice to see you. Thanks for showing up. So this is my boss.
Hi.
Hi, Nikos.
Hi. Savannah. Nice to meet you.
Like the desert?
What?
Like the desert. Savannah.
Similar, yeah. I think it's technically a grassy plain.
No,
I think you said there.
no. Sahara has a savannah
Oh,
down.
okay.
where it still does.
He's great. He's got better education than we do.
Yeah, no. Technically, there is grass in it.
Yeah. And it becomes savannah.
But I thought it was more like Georgia.
Also, well,
I know too. Yeah.
Well, it's 6:39, so I'm just gonna go do a slight introduction, and then does anyone not have it installed?
me.
So Sam will do the install. Maybe we'll do it on Windows. Since that's
Try it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard.
Try it.
I can uninstall it. It's kind of flavor you have. If you have Ubuntu or CentOS or whatever, you can either go with unreg sudo. If you use his repository for PHP 7, it already has it. If you're on CentOS and you use Remy Colette's repository, it already has it. If you're using anything else, or you just go to packages, just copy one command, update, run, install. That's it.
Oh, that sounds easier than what we had to do.
Now, if you really want to do bleeding edge, then you clone the repository, flip over to the latest branch, and then file it from source, which should take you, what, 3-4 minutes?
I think on my Mac it took yeah, 5 minutes, less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, the issue was man more than it was Phalcon.
That's because I just am stupid on doing PHP and forgot like where the extensions were supposed to go. I'm like, oh look, I installed it and then I did this thing and then installed the extension where it's supposed to. Too bad I'm not using that.
True.
Yeah, that was my. Yeah, you've actually watched my video.
I did. And I had ran into the same exact problem you did.
Do you like move a certain way?
It is pretty long.
Came across to all of these problems so many times. So what you would do is,
Everybody do me a favor. Sit over there like.
alright,
Hold on, I'm having a. Yeah.
You just go stand in the front for like.
Well, I need to anyways because I'm streaming, so it's I'm the way high.
So I'm gonna sit in the back row.
It's just like high school. So everyone sits in the back row. All right, so Gary, you just need to take a moment to help me.
After I sat in the front row there.
Yeah, of course. I just need to make sure that I'm like I don't have a mark yet.
I can help you. I can see the computer.
You are like two-thirds.
It doesn't really matter where I stand then, because I'm not going to project anything at this
Oh, well now you're dead center, so how about it? Hey, look, it's Paul.
Yes, I'm on the computer. Anyways, welcome everybody. So we'll do it the way we used to do it at the Ruby Group. Hi everybody. And then you're supposed to say,
Hi.
Hi.
there you go, it's like an AA meeting. We all have a problem.
Leave us over there.
Yeah, Gary, I'm done with you.
I only want to talk through the section.
We have a sickness, and that sickness is PHP, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Some people have a Java sickness, you know, currently. Some people don't. I used to have a Ruby sickness, now I have a JavaScript sickness, and then everyone goes, oh, right? Because everyone loves JavaScript, right? No? Right? Well, anyway, so welcome to the install party. And I think we only have one person needs to install, so we're going to install it on Windows. So really this is, more or less we leave the mic open. Nothing really to see here, but you can submit questions if you have online, if you're trying to install with us. And I'll introduce Nicholas. Come on up.
Hey.
As being the native expert, he's gonna, every time we screw something up, he's gonna tell us what we screwed up and then fix it for us. So,
Really? No. I'm not fixing anything.
so what do you do?
I'm just doing documentation.
Oh, all right.
No, seriously. My role in the project is not to do anything that has to do with C or Zephyr or anything like that. If it's something relatively easy that I see in the Zephyr code, I can do it and change it. But my tasks on the project are mostly social media, documentation, making sure that all the DLLs are compiled, because I actually have the two virtual machines that compile VC11 and VC14, and hopefully with Phalcon 4 there will be only VC14, so no PHP 5 anymore with Phalcon 4. So yeah, that's what I usually do. Plus, I'm also the referee at times. Yeah, I'm the bad guy. At times, you would have people that are very vocal to the community, and they would think that A is better than B, and then there would be another person that thinks that B is better than A. So sometimes I come as the referee and say, okay, guys, did you think this over? And we start discussions and all that stuff, and then in the end, if it does come to the point that we have to make a decision we haven't brought in, I just pick one up. And then we had a couple of those in the past, but usually we discuss things even more, and then the solution comes out as to why one method is preferable than the other, especially looking to the future, what we want to do with Phalcon 4 and how we want this community to grow.
Well, documentation is pretty important though, right?
Yes, it is pretty important, and there's not enough hours in the day.
So that's like a great opportunity here. So if you really want to get involved in open source, this is one of those places where there's so much documentation work to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think
Absolutely.
I almost want to say that if there's a weakness to the framework, it's that
It is the biggest.
does
Yeah,
not have
absolutely.
enough documentation, which means like just learning it. If you hadn't popped into my videos and helped me out, I would have spun my wheels for a bit and probably found like kind of a weird roundabout solution, right? And it's not like they're not documented. It's just following the steps directly can sometimes lead you down a little hole, and so it just needs a lot of polish. So
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great and correct criticism that we had in the past was that the installation procedure. So the GitHub page would have one installation procedure. The documentation in this section will have another one, and then you would have a third section that would say something different.
Yeah.
And the website might say something different. So a lot of people correctly criticized us for this. So hopefully we merged everything together as into one. The fact that we brought packagecloud.io. This is where we compile all our SOs for Linux systems, and you can just bring them in. You can either do it from the Phalcon repository, you can do it from Remy for RPM based distributions, or you can do it from onreg sudo for Ubuntu based distributions. And of course, if you have something else, you can just build it from scratch. There's packages also for Arch, for FreeBSD. There's an e-build for Gentoo, I know. So there's plenty, and of course the Windows DLLs and all that. For Mac users, we don't care. We just leave them.
Honestly, yeah. The first time I tried to install it, I just went to the GitHub repo and followed the installation instructions and just compiled it from source. And then I was told later I didn't have to do that. I was like, oh, I'm a developer. It's okay. I can run make.
Compiling from source is really easy, but we're trying to make it easy for the person that doesn't want to get their hands dirty.
Honestly, though, that was surprising. Usually, you take a C project or anything that goes to C, and then you just like clone the repo and run make. Never does that work. You listed out all the dependencies that you needed. I'm just saying, like, that part was really easy. So the fact that I just didn't know there were DLLs or downloads just meant that I like hit the wrong page.
Well, the download page for the website does have the 4 tabs where you can just say, okay, I want Windows now, I want Linux, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we used to do in the past, which was horrible, was we used to put the DLLs inside the repository.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you would pretty much go and pick them up from the website, and if you clone the repository, there's your 150 megs.
Right, thanks.
Yeah, just for the cloning. And of course it's more because it's various versions that have been stored there. So later on we actually did it the right way. So now what we're doing is we're compiling the DLL, zipping them, and then we're dumping them in the GitHub release page. So people can go and pick them up from there.
Alright, so say we're on Windows. Where do we get started?
GitHub repo?
Okay.
Well, you can do it from, you can go through our website, click on downloads, and then it will tell you where to go. But the shortcut is go to the GitHub repo, which is Phalcon/cPhalcon. Click on the releases, and then you will see which release you want. You click on the release, and there's your DLLs.
Oh, even better.
The one thing that Windows is notoriously nasty, you have to know what version you have. One of the 2 big players, either XAMPP or WAMP. One of the 2, the one that comes from Apache Friends.
Okay.
I think it's the XAMPP.
I think so. Yeah.
That one is always compiled 32-bit, so you cannot use the 64-bit DLLs. So you have to be careful about these little details.
Do you have a naming convention for the DLLs?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It actually tells you where it's from, which version, which PHP version, whether it's non-thread safe or thread safe, and then what Phalcon version. So.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get it installed on Windows, and someone will be monitoring chat. So if you want to go to the repo, which is github.com/cPhalcon
/Phalcon/cPhalcon.
Right. Kind of follow along with us. You know, we'll be happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I'm disappearing.
So you're gonna download it now.
I'm on the repo.
Sweet.
So I want to just follow this link here, the download.
No. Go up. All the way. Alright, so releases. And then 3.1. Let's go at the bottom and you have it. So these are all the DLLs. So you see x64, VC11, HP5, and then 3.2.1. And the NTS is the non-thread safe. Depends what PHP you have or what PHP you are going to install there. If you have 7, it should be further in the VC14s. Well, look at your installation. If you have thread safety or non-thread safety, I just download it. It saves you from going back and forth into different pages. So all we have in these is the DLL license, of course. All you do is you just grab the DLL, you extract it, copy it into your module, whatever that module is, and then you change the PHP INI, and you're good to go.
Oh, that's easy. Okay.
Yeah, so if you have, for instance, Xdebug, Encrypt, and all that stuff, all these DLLs, I think they're under EXT in your installation. you just drop it in there and you just put a line extension equals Phalcon.dll, and that's pretty much it. And you have to restart the window.
Right. But I primarily work from VMware on Ubuntu, so I'll probably do it there too. Yeah.
If you go here, this,
Repo?
go back a little bit. And let's see the download. Here. So Linux, Unix, Mac. If this is what you want to do with the dependencies, these are not necessarily the dependencies you want. This is from building from scratch. So you could do all these for that, but for Ubuntu, you can pretty much either get OnReg repository, OnReg's repository, or Phalcon one. So can you hit on your page? Go to packagecloud.io/Phalcon. Cloud.io/Phalcon. Excuse me. Alright, so here you decide what you want, stable or nightly. So if you hit the stable one, that's the latest version. And then if you click on installation here, so scroll down a little bit. There you go. So you put this command in there, and you
Awesome.
for your
For the
yeah.
Ubuntu version.
And then after that, you have to decide which one to install, either the 7.0, the 7.1,
Right.
and all that. So yeah, that's
That's pretty much it, huh?
uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I only allocated half
Where's
an
the
hour.
button?
Push the button, do it. That's why I thought about only allocating like a half an hour to do installation. We did a Ruby one once, and I'm not trying to give Ruby a hard time,
I
but
struggle with this.
to get anybody, like that was like an hour and a half
Yeah.
doing installation on a non-Mac. You know?
We also have another project, if you like, which is the Phalcon Compose. And what the Phalcon Compose is a series of Docker images, where you can pretty much have an application set up in, I don't know, not even 10 minutes. And when I'm saying an application, every aspect of it. So the Phalcon Compose, you just clone the repository down, and then you change the compose file a little bit to your needs, and then you just say compose out. That's it. And then all you have to do is just put your files in there, your actual files, and you're good to go. So Phalcon Compose offers MySQL, PHP 7, Aerospike, Mongo, Redis, I don't know how many other packages, PHPMyAdmin, Backtrace, I think. So it offers all of these containers in one environment. And then with the up and the down, you pretty much have the environment running in no time.
Is it just wrapping Docker Compose then?
Yeah.
Cool. So probably the reason. So I used to use Homestead, which I despised, and I despised for one reason. It's the same reason I always despise VMs, and that is just that it's sucking up 2 gig of my resources.
Yep.
And this was the same for Docker up until recently. Where now with Hyper-V on Windows and with HyperKit on OS X, and I don't know, Linux this does natively, you know, like you can, it uses almost no additional resources outside of what the actual framework, like what Postgres needs and what PHP needs and what Nginx needs as actual resources. It's so lightweight that there's almost no reason not to, because you can almost deploy this to a container using the same configuration.
The only thing that is going on with the containers right now is that most people are rather lazy, so to speak. Where I'm getting with that is they're gonna say, well, you know what? I got 6 terabytes of hard drive. Who cares how big the image is?
That's me.
which is fine. All right. So if you're downloading the base Ubuntu, you're looking at 500 megs or 200 megs or whatever. Put on top the customizations that you need. All right. Let's say I want to install now make, git, GCC2, whatever, and then immediately when you build your image, it's no longer 200, it's 500, 600, but you don't care, right? You just say, okay, there's ample space. That's what I mean by laziness. There's nothing wrong with that. The images that I've played around with are all based on Alpine Linux. And Alpine Linux can give you an operating system, a bash shell with 5 megabytes. So that pretty much makes a difference. To give you an idea, at home, curl, top, TCP traceroute, blah, 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 all these commands are not installed on my computer. They're just Docker images. And it's just an Alpine image that has this command that gets exposed to my host. And the reason I do it this way is all I have to save from my computer is my data drive, which already gets backed up, and my .dot files, which are pretty much shortcuts to Docker commands to run htop or traceroute or dig or something like that. So I don't have to install these packages on a brand new system. So if everything goes bad and my computer gets hosed and all that stuff, I don't care. I have that file in my repository, so I'll just download it and I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Because the first time I run it, it will pull the image down, but the next time it's gonna be there. So that's where I got the random really low maintenance, so you don't lose all of space.
Oh, and I know when I was first learning Docker, half my deployments are this container uses Ubuntu, and then this container uses a different version. I didn't think of this. At some point, you're on a droplet on DigitalOcean, and you think 20 gig is a lot of disk space.
Yeah.
And then like 10 builds later, it's all gone. Like somehow I found a way to speed up or beat the logs to using up my disk space. Right? The death of the system is the log file until we gave Paul Docker. Right?
Yeah.
It's really a lot of work to go back and fix those old images.
At which point you just ignore them.
Yeah.
RMI, bye, and you pull the new image. One other thing that I really love about Docker is that you can containerize your application, and under the right circumstances, you can deploy an application with really good safety as far as the rollback is concerned. So
yeah.
Let's assume that you have an application that has 20 files in there, whatever, okay? And each of those says hello world. Great. Now, if you put all those files into a container and you bring it down with the tag 1.0, that's your version, and you map, of course, the drive host to container, then you have 20 hello worlds. So your next iteration is you want to do hello Jim Kirk or hello Spock or whatever. So you do that again, and now it's version 2. The best part about Docker is that you can stop the old container, bring the new container in, start it up, test it right there and then. If it all fails, you just start the old container back. So you have pretty much no downtime. Normal deployments would go, all right, well, do a git pull from master and you've just deployed. And in many cases, things would go wrong. Now, of course, this is not a recipe that everybody can use. For instance, a deployment could very well mean that you empty the cache, you made database changes, and so on and so forth. But there's also tools that can shield you from that. For instance, Finks, we've been talking about that, which is now part of the Cake Foundation, that they maintain the project. You can actually do a rollback on your database, provided that you don't manipulate data. If you manipulate tables and fields and all that stuff, you can bring it back to your previous version really easily with a few commands. So
I found this stuff really interesting in the fact that like I have some limited experience outside of like Ruby, JavaScript, that kind of stuff as like a long term. We've had that the whole time. Like that's always been that way, I feel, and it's always been really mature. And then I'll go to like a Java application, or I'll talk to PHP engineers, and it's not even like, I don't say it's like the mentality of cowboy coding in PHP has maintained that we don't care about database migrations, or that's what Finks is. In case you didn't know, Finks is a database migration tool. So But even like, I think I've been using Flyway with Java, and doesn't even have all the features. Like rollback is something that's in a different package, right? And I think rollback's like essential to development. How many times have I written the wrong migration by accident?
Yep.
Not kind of really realize it till I applied it, and then realized I spelled something wrong, and then I roll it back. I mean, like Gary and I, this is like a thing. Like you just keep doing it till it's right, and then you commit. But that's super important. But so back to the Docker thing. Of course, that was like the first like real epiphany I had when I could make an application could fail to deploy. The backup container would just stay running if the new container didn't start up, and then just rename them. And then just try to deploy again.
You could do that. That's like 10 seconds.
No effort.
Yeah, that's.
But the question then comes down to with Docker in the PHP world is that we're also used to working on shared hosts. So
I mean, I think shared hosts are so 2000, 2005 or something like that, where everybody was going, well, do you have cPanel? Yeah, we do. Oh, great, I can manage my sites, right? And back then you were paying $10, $20 a month. Right now you have insane amount of computational power and space compared back then with $5 in a droplet. If you go with Lightsail, which is the new Amazon thing, it's $3 a month, $4 a month. We have the blog, the documentation, and the main website in a 512 megabyte RAM, 1 vCPU Lightsail VM. Right? So what else do I need? I don't need anything. And they run really fast. I know our website is slow right now, primarily because it downloads 3 megabytes of pictures. And we're working on that. That's been identified. So yeah,
I totally have a solution for this though.
Yeah, just scrap it, make it white.
No. We could just write a on build script that will take all your little like on hover images.
Those are not the ones. The ones I'm talking about are as soon as you go into the landing page, you see certain pictures just fly in the background. Those are 3 megabytes.
Oh.
Just like.
See, I was more concerned about the 200 some other images in the page.
No. Those are nothing. the images at the bottom, which are the contributors, are nothing. And actually, those were equally a problem because we were linking them to GitHub, having GitHub as the serving mechanism.
Right.
And that one would slow down significantly. So what I've done, was it yesterday or the day before, the script that fetches the contributors actually fetches the image, and it saves them down there on the server, and you serve them straight up. And then we're gonna put them at some point on a CDN, so it's not a huge thing. Or maybe create a sprite where it loads it after the fact.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, because like not to use the dirty word, but JavaScript does a great job of letting you create lazy loaders.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so like that would be,
or ideal.
Just don't have it load until you scroll there.
Yeah,
like until it's invisible. Those are my 2 thoughts.
But we are now in the process of redesigning the website. Pretty much the header at the top will be identical in every single site that we have, whether this is the blog documentation, built with, which still haven't touched it. Actually, that would be a good project to work together.
Okay.
Let's do the build with.
Yeah. Build
with Phalcon. Right? It was thrown together by one of our contributors, Oli As. AASS, I think is his last name.
Sounds like a guy on a arcade machine.
No idea what that is. I come from Greece, so that went wee over my head. So he just started it, and we didn't expect to have that many people. It doesn't even have a database. It has a JSON file, and you just dump files in here, and there you go. It shows them. So there's no search. There's no this. No that. So we can do something where we can store the images, crop them, do whatever, and then show them. People can actually find tags of what these built with sites are. So which ones were built with PHP 5, which ones use MySQL, which ones, something like that. It says you know JavaScript.
I don't just know it. I like it.
You can. Oh well. You can help.
And your opinion of me has lowered.
Yeah. Are you good down there?
What? But the, you know, the strange part about this whole thing is that I see so many similarities, both that PHP and JavaScript were pretty much launched at the same time. They have like similar thought patterns for their roots. There's a whole concept of that functional PHP, which is, you know, it's like I didn't like PHP a long time ago, and then I learned how to do JavaScript properly, and now I like PHP again. Right? Like, without the JavaScript, there would be no.
You know, the problem is that we have 3 stages as developers, and I'm taking myself as an example.
Okay.
You start with something. So for me, it was Visual Basic 6. Well, actually, it was Visual Basic 3 in alpha mode, so that shows you how old I am. And then it became Visual Basic 4, 5, and 6 was the best thing. Then they came out with .NET, and that's when I chose, you know, I don't want to go down that route, I'll go open source. But when I started developing, let's say VB4, oh my gosh, I thought that, you know, put the red carpet here. You know, I'm the God's gift to programming. And very opinionated. Of course, applications taught me that I need to eat a little bit of a humble pie. And, you know, you make mistakes. Luckily, non-critical that it would destroy a corporation. But you learn, and then you realize that you don't know. All right? You know some things, but you don't know everything. And then you start engaging other people, and you're getting other people's ideas, and those ideas actually build something better in your head, and then you exchange ideas and so on and so forth. So that's the second stage, when you realize that you don't know. And the third one is when you realize how much you know and where you're perfect on. Mm-hmm. And anything else, you just say, okay, well, I need help with these. And you're not afraid to ask for help. That's what a lot of people do have. They think that they're God's gift to humanity and programming in general, and they're afraid to ask, as if, you know, somebody would have a lower opinion of you if you ask a question. So that's my analysis. And yes, my last name is not Freud. So, so there you go.
So you want to give us your
Sure.
How do we want to hook up?
No idea.
That's the way I feel. I have a VGA cable.
Okay.
Because that's an old projector. And I have an adapter.
Did I share it with you?
Yeah.
Pull it up on your computer and stream it there.
Well, I'm not connected to this. Can't connect to that.
All right.
So I can connect something to that and definitely see.
Let me see.
And I'm going to do the same thing here.
Can the Mac hook up?
Yeah, the Mac can hook up. And I am going.
I have a VGA here.
So as long as, yeah, just go run it, and I'm going to put it in the background of the video.
Hopefully. It will run.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Hopefully it will work.
So someone will trigger your slides for you.
Alright. By the way, this one, I bought it specifically for you.
I was gonna say, I love that one.
I don't understand it.
Oh, okay, I don't understand. Yeah, you're.
You are, yeah.
Yeah, but how many people spell, instead of this, they put Y-O-U-R?
Oh, I didn't understand the asterisks.
That's
yeah,
just a correction. Like you're just.
The asterisk is the correction.
Yeah.
I use the caret.
Thank you.
Yeah, my fiance, he's a writer. He has this big mug, and it has all the like different little grammar things written on it.
Yep. Let's see if I can
All
project
right,
this.
so let me see.
Full disclosure, I've never projected anything from this notebook.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
So, yes, network, right?
It is.
DD8.
Yep. Gary, you know the password?
No.
Sumatra's
FTO.
Where's the
FTO.
Password.
Sumatra FTO.
lowercase?
Yes.
Yay!
Do we want that up a little, Paul?
It's actually pretty much okay.
Okay.
If you can bring it up, like 4 inches, that'd be fine. Yep, that's a lot.
Too high.
It's floating away, Gary.
Oh, he's doing
I
something
know.
underneath. I didn't realize.
Just messing with it.
Does that even make a difference?
No.
Projector next. I'm sure it's not supposed to be done to it. Or is it? Are we supposed to unscrew the wheels on the bottom?
They should screw out.
Okay.
Yeah, those are
That's
leveling.
So how do you send this thing out? Doesn't seem to project this thing.
What do you have that
That's
set
probably in displays.
to? Yeah, it's usually one of the function keys. Like usually the F3 has the display buttons on it.
No, that's not this. So this one is one. It brings this configure screen states in layout, but it doesn't have anything else. And if I click on identify, it just identifies this one.
You have an HDMI.
No.
No?
Unfortunately, we might just set up another computer on it for you. Because I just tested it on before I left the house. Everything's in alpha mode. Never done anything before.
This one is in here.
So don't you have like a display, like in the settings?
Probably does. Which is exactly the same screen.
Did you plug that into computer 1 on the side there?
Computer one can.
Okay. So there's also a source button on it. In case for some reason I decided to not pick up the source.
There's a source button on the projector?
Should be.
Okay.
This one's computer video.
Yeah, I can push buttons. Computer.
Computer 2.
Computer one.
Okay.
No.
So, Nikos, would you just share that with me in Discord again?
I already shared it to you with you.
Yes, but I don't seem to have it on this computer.
Hold on.
You want to just
Yeah, you're
plug this in?
you're in the shared kind of.
I just need a link.
Yeah.
Because of course, as anyone who's using Google Drive, once something's been shared with you, it's gone.
Yeah.
She'll never find
Never
it.
access it again.
Yeah.
So
And then I'll go ahead and run the
alright.
slides from this will be fun orchestration. Right. Windows.
That's why I told you I never done this before with this particular computer. I never had the need to send it to a different screen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's of course the wrong count.
Of course.
You told me send it to there.
Yeah, I get it. I have the same problem that every project manager ever had. A constant list of user has requested access to this file.
Every time.
Every single time, and then responding back with, I can't give you access to your Gmail account.
Yes.
Roll the flow for this next time. It'll seem like we know what we're doing.
Got it?
As long as it's
Yeah.
seamless.
Yeah, it's all about appearances.
It is.
Yeah, this says access denied.
You want me to change the email address there?
No, because all OBS is faulty.
Of course. It's always OBS.
Why shouldn't it be?
So, while you're trying to figure this out,
By all means.
something for people to know. I know we talked about this in that hangout that we had together, the last video.
Yeah.
So people start asking why create Phalcon, right? We have some brilliant frameworks out there, from the rather old ones, which is Codeigniter, Cake. These have been here for a long time. Zen framework, excellent framework. And also Symfony, to the newer ones, more like Laravel, Net, and so on and so forth. So people are asking, why do you do this? So the answer is because nobody else has done it before. Okay, and we want to know what can we get out of the framework itself, right? Some people don't realize that everything you do in PHP has a cost. Okay, so if I output hello world 100 times, this is going to take, for argument's sake, 1 second. Okay, well, no, but anyway, the minute you create a function in your file, and that function, you call the function 100 times, it's going to be 1.5 seconds. The minute you create a class and you call a function or a method inside that class that does the hello world, that's going to be 2.5 seconds, and so on and so forth. So the more layers you start putting into your PHP application, there will be a cost, however minuscule this might be. A lot of people go though with the approach of, who cares? Hardware is cheap right now. Throw in a DigitalOcean 32 gigabyte server with 10 cores or 12 cores or whatever. It's just $100 more. Well, okay, it's $100 more, but think about it this way: a bad design will follow you till the end of time, and there will come a point you will not be able to scale anymore. Right, where you have to refactor severely, you have to put in a lot of work into maintaining this. I also heard the argument, well, you shouldn't care about the framework, you should just put a varnish server at the front, which is a hugely caching server. Well, that doesn't work very well. What if your application is a stock ticker? If you put a cache server, it's pretty much useless in front of it because the stock will change, 20 times a second. So depending on your application, if you have good foundations and you make sure that you optimize performance, then you allow your application to grow organically as it goes along. One of the members of our community turned around and said, yeah, you know what, I agree with you. Frameworks, you shouldn't worry about frameworks and how much they cost. But here's the interesting part. I have people, and I have these are my clients, and what they do is they just have their applications on my servers. If I use, let's say, Laravel and frameworks, Symfony, any of these guys, I'm going to use X resources. The minute those sites start picking up, of course, the resources on my server will start growing, diminishing. At which point I'm going to have to upgrade them, which means that I'm going to have to pay more until these customers reach the second level or the second tier, and they pay me more for that. But with Phalcon, this upgrade process happens a lot later because it's not so memory hungry. And as a result, if you are paying the bill, then you need to maximize your performance, you maximize your investment. So this is one of the good areas that you can use Phalcon. Another good area is it's loosely coupled, load it up on your web server, use whatever you like. Do you want to use just the filter? Fine. Do you want to use a router? Fine again. Do you want to use the full application? Do you want to use it for an API? Anything like that. So you don't have to use the whole thing right off the bat. It's not something that would work. There you go, memory.
Almost. Oh, I think I need to just switch your screen. It's all now. Oh, we're there.
Nearly.
I don't this is a.
It's not what screen he's on.
Yeah, but this is not the screen we're on.
I know.
It's what you call it, your memory activity monitoring. Yay!
Oh, almost.
Oh,
Yay! Excellent.
Wow, it's a little blurry.
Yeah, in the old projectors, you had to twist the front.
Yeah, this one
I'm
is.
just messing.
But this one's fixed.
There you go, out of position.
So to figure it out itself. Alright, that's terrible color. Can I even hit present?
Do you think that it might be the lighting from here?
Yeah, we can turn the lighting down. Go ahead.
A little bit better, I guess.
That's about as good as we're gonna get, I think.
Well, let's go for it. Alright, so Phalcon PHP. What is Phalcon PHP? As it states here, it's the fastest full stack framework delivered as a C extension. We had a lot of people complaining about this statement, and we had to make sure that we put full stack framework because there's a gentleman by the name of Lawrence. He's one of the people that constantly contributes to the PHP community. He's one of the core team. And just for fun, he created a framework called YAF. W-Y-A-F. Now that thing is fast, right? It's extremely fast. But you start using it and you're saying, well, if I want to do a hello world, yeah, I'm going to have the fastest hello world, but what if I want to go more advanced, full application, dispatching, MVC framework? So yes, YAF is much faster than Phalcon, but YAF lacks a lot of the features that Phalcon offers. So we wanted to put that there. And because it doesn't have any files per se on the file system, it's all in memory. That's one of the things that gives it its fast performance and speed and all that stuff. So let's go to after we focus. Oh, yay. We should be okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned earlier, what is it? It's a full stack PHP framework. It's loaded as a module on your web server, and it's always available because it's memory resident, and it's available for all the applications that particular web server is serving. So you have one installation that fits all. Of course, that brings problems, and the problem is upgrading problems. So if you have one application on your web server that uses Phalcon 2.0, and you want to put another application that uses Phalcon 3.0, you cannot do that. Only one module exists. So you have to be very careful with your upgrades. Now, it's also loosely coupled, can be used as a glue framework, so you can use anything you want. I mentioned this earlier. If you just want to use a filter component, if you want to use the logger, if you want to use anything that Phalcon offers, all you have to do is just instantiate it because it's memory resident. It offers a CLI, command line application. It offers a micro application, which is perfect for APIs because it's extremely streamlined. It doesn't have even a dispatcher. And of course it's fast, and again full application, and of course it follows the MVC, so there's an easy learning curve, and it has a wealth of features that you can actually have a look for yourself. So next one please. All right, so who is behind it? The father of Phalcon is Andres Gutierrez, the #1 guy. He's the one that started Phalcon, God knows when. I mean, I don't remember. It's such a long time. It's such a great journey so far. But he started Phalcon as a test. You know, can I do this? Why not? Right? So he started writing the first version of Phalcon. Version 2 came out. 0.2 came out. 0.3 was a full rewrite, I believe, because that's when Andres had his aha moment. Oh, I can use macros in C. So he rewrote everything, shortened the code base significantly, and so on and so forth. Around version 4 is where I came along, and it's been fun ever since. We have Sergey Yakovlev. He's our pretty much our C DevOps, pretty much the guy for everything. Volodymyr Koleshnikov is also from Ukraine, as Sergey is. He's a really hardcore C guy. I mean, he would find things that were like, what? Where did that come from? And the usual suspect #4 is me, of course. Our wonderful contributors. We have some really hardcore guys and ladies, of course, that always try to push the envelope. They issue NFRs, they question things, they write tests and all that. And those are the pretty much unsung heroes that help this project move along. So this is the history a little bit. So 2011, when it started, it was named Spark, and then it was renamed to Phalcon. In 2012, excuse me, we had 0.5. I was there, yay. So we had our dependency injection container, which just got in. PHQL is the language that Phalcon uses for its queries. It's similar to SQL, but PHQL, of course, Phalcon query language. It uses a different technique to pretty much pick up everything. It interfaces with PDO. So it does all the standardization and escaping, all that good stuff that PDO does. It has binding parameters and all that. It's based in Lemon. I don't know if anybody knows the scripting language. It's something that easily parses strings. We created the micro apps. We offered CLI. We had Postgres, SQL, MySQL, and SQLite, and this is pretty much a real framework, right? We just managed to do something. 0.6, that was again in 2003. We offered Volt and the ODM for MongoDB. I know 0.7, I don't have it here, but I think at that time was we pretty much scrubbed everything from the code and we actually put interfaces so that people can start extending. 2013, version 1.0, which was a great feeling to have. We put a paginator, encryption, asset management, cookies, forms builder, but we had serious problem with contributions because back then the only thing that we had is C, right? And how many know C? Not me. Don't look at me. I mean, even if I buy the book, the C primer, by the time I read it, I'm gonna be, okay, well, I'm lost. So the contributions were really slow. At the time, I think it was Eduard and Andres, two guys that started the framework that we're using on this. Pretty much between 2012 and 2013, Andres was the one pulling the bulk of the work in terms of new functionality. So what we did is we said, okay, we need to make sure that we have a lot of people contributing, but we don't want to force them to learn C. We want to make something that it would be really easy for people to pick up and allow them to work. So Zephyr was born. So we created a brand new language. It's based on either PHP or JavaScript, whichever you like. Functions, statements, and all that stuff are extremely easy. You see the code, you recognize it. Tiny little bits of differences in syntax. So, for instance, in JavaScript, you might say var my var equals 1. Well, in Zephyr, you're going to say let my var equals 1. So it's small changes. So we created that and we rewrote the whole framework in Zephyr. And what is Zephyr? Zephyr is a language that is created using PHP core files that reads Zephyr-based files and it converts them into C. So the minute you write let a equals 1, when it reads it using PHP, it creates something like zval whatever blah blah pointer here squiggly space or whatever. I don't know. C equals that. So it transforms something that is very pleasing to the eye for the developer to something that is very pleasing only to the C developer, right? Which, and these are, you know, beings in extinction. So I mean, let's face it, really good C programmers are really hard to find. So we wrote that and we were running parallel testing with regards to performance, and to our really great joy, we found that we had a 0.1% less performance in version 1 between 1 and 2. So Zephyr was a tiny bit slower, but you know, for the first version of Zephyr, we were like, yay, you know, that's great. So what we did is we started working on Zephyr, and of course that 0.1 was gone. I mean, we managed to make it a lot faster. And around 2016, we released version 3, which was one of our biggest backwards incompatible version that you can find. So there are a lot of things that are really heavy blog posts that actually tells you, if you have this, you need to change that. If you have this, you need to change that. If you have this, you need to change that. And I know quite a few are still on version 2 because their applications need to be updated to version 3 format. But Phalcon 3 is an LTS support. So we are going to support it for quite a while. I think a couple more years or something. Might be wrong. But yeah, it's going to be supported. So whoever goes into that route, they know with, you know, that this is going to be getting all the security fixes, all the bug fixes, potentially new functionality and all that stuff. So the problem with version 3 is that we did not have PHP 7. And that was because Zephyr had some bugs that we had to build in. Now bear in mind, version 3 before PHP 7, all you had to do is just say, okay, well, this particular phrase, change it to this particular C expression. But with PHP 7, now we have Zend Engine 3. And the whole syntax changes. So initially we had to make it so that Zephyr can follow either path A, which is PHP 5, or path B, which is PHP 7, and distinguish between the two and keep the common areas common. So that was one thing that we had to overcome. Then we had a few bugs in Zephyr that were really difficult to nail down. So sadly, when 3 was released, no PHP 7. Of course, a lot of people in the community were going, well, you don't support PHP, so I'm not going to even use it. So you would engage them very politely in a discussion. So for your applications in your production environment, what do you use? PHP 5.2. Okay, so and then you go like, okay, you're complaining about 7. So that was something that we couldn't do. Bear in mind, you just saw how many people work on this project, right? And I'm not a C coder. Okay, so all this work comes from very few people. And then in 2017, 3.1.2, PHP 7 support. We celebrated that. We opened champagnes, virtual champagnes in our Discord server and all that. And it was insane. The amount of downloads that we got as soon as we released 7 was out of this world. I mean, you look at the graphs and you're like, and then when 7 came out, went all the way up. So yeah, people are really excited. And for me, it's really exciting to see that people are using 7 and not staying with 5, which is pretty much deprecated. Well, not deprecated. They do not offer any new support. They will support security fixes for another year, I think, maybe.
That was a game view.
Well, they will offer certain security fixes, but not for a long time. Support for PHP 5 ended with the end of the year, last year, but they are going to support it until I think 18. So yeah, the PHP 7 real life application. You have one application that works. It's the application I'm thinking of right now is for something that I've been working on in my normal job. 1,000 users per hour, maybe more, so it's relatively heavy. Took the same application, put it into a PHP 7 new server. Of course, we had to change certain things just to make it so that it doesn't throw all these errors and all that stuff. Immediately upon release, we had a good amount, 20 to 30% of the people sending us, wow, these new servers are really awesome. And if you look at the server specs, the actual virtual machines are identical. So, 4 gigs of RAM here, 4 gigs of RAM there. This space. PHP 7 is much, much faster. So do yourselves favors, PHP 7. So, 2017, we were thinking of releasing version 4, which has a lot of goodies, but I don't think that it will happen because there's a lot of stuff that we need to take into account. There were discussions about changing our ORM from data mapper to active record, offering both. So it's still some things that we need to make sure that we have in place and offer something that would not drive the whole community crazy. And bear in mind, we are going to have to support 3 and 4 at the same time as soon as 4 is released. So you cannot make a huge leap. You have to make the steps as slow as possible. One of the things that we were criticized in the past, as you should, is between 2 and 3, the changes were quite heavy. So a lot of applications broke or would break if you try to upgrade. So you did need a lot of care for your code. And that's not something that we want to do on version 4. If there are changes, we're gonna make them, kind of like 10, 15 things that you have to change, and that's it, you're done. So we're treading carefully there, right? So, I think I actually went through this whole thing with my blabber. All right, so very quickly here, what is Zephyr? Zephyr is the language that I mentioned that we created. It's a high-level language, PHP/JavaScript syntax. It has static and dynamic typing. It has automatic memory management. It has strict and explicit behavior over flexible and implicit behavior. I don't know why I wrote this, so sorry. You can produce object-oriented libraries that can be used in PHP. You can hide complexity. You can even compile your code, your whole code, in Zephyr and just load it as a module. You can have some sort of obfuscation if you want to. It produces exceptions instead of notices or warnings, and it can detect potentially slow and unreachable code. As I said, code obfuscation, and you can create libraries. One of the things that you could do with this is actually put a crypt library in Zephyr. So let's assume that you want to encrypt certain things in your database, and you want to have it as transparent as possible. Of course, where are you going to put your key? On the server. Well, somebody compromised the server, it's gone. But what you can do is you can compile your key hard-coded into a Zephyr module, compile it, load it up on your server, it's memory resident. There you go. You can have /mycrypt : get key. And that's it, it's just going to return you a string. But somebody picking it up from a random file on your server, you know, it's not going to happen. So things like that you can do. All right. So this is pretty much how Zephyr does it, right? So the Zephyr code, it optimizes the files that it has, and it tries to find common ground between all of them. GCC has been in Linux, I don't know, for decades, right? So it knows about optimization, all that stuff, and that's what the Zephyr is trying to leverage by the output code, and this is just files, text files that contain the C instructions. It sends them to the C compiler, which could be one of the three, and then that one gets further optimized, and then you have the native execution of that. Okay. So some of the features that we have in Phalcon, there's quite a few of them. I left quite a lot out, but the big ones is, we mentioned PHQL, the Phalcon query language. The overhead is extremely low. I did mention that the Phalcon documentation, blog, and website are all running on a 512 megabyte RAM machine with 1 VPC. So, and they run really well. So you can leverage this speed and performance for your application. MVC or HMVC, dependency injection, which is awesome. You can have different database components. You can have database adapters, SQLite, PostgreSQL, MySQL, of course, and you have an ODM for MongoDB. We have transactions, you have cache. The cache could be a view cache, so you can cache your pages as they come along. It could be a data cache, so arbitrary data, just dumping them into a cache. You can cache models, and that one comes straight into the Phalcon model. You just say cache this for 30 minutes. It does it automatically, you don't need to worry about it. You have a crypt component, you have a template engine, which is Vault, that's how it's called, but you don't need to use it. You can use Mustache, or you can use Twig, or you can use anything like that. So you can pretty much put a new engine in it and it will work. We have routers, autoloaders, events, queuing and background processes like beanstalkd, flash messages, so pretty much quite a few things here that you can use. So now you might not be able to see this really well, so let me try and find which one is the Phalcon one. It should be at the top. What is this? This is from a website called Tech Empower. They run, they have a GitHub repository where you can actually submit your framework, and they have a set things that you need to do. So, you know, you need to return, let's say a JSON string, or you need to have a database with 20 records, and this particular call will have to return whatever. So they do that for a lot of things, not only for PHP, they do that for Ruby, for God knows what. Okay, now the last run that they had was last year, February. Usually, no, the last run was last year, October, I think. we were expecting one in February, but I have never seen it. Because more and more people actually submit these. And what they do is they spin up a couple of boxes and they start running all these tests, one per framework, and then they show you the results. So I have no idea what this thing is. Here, it's very illegible. But these are live
I'm gonna post the
results.
slides.
Huh?
I'll post the slides with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna clean up this video.
Yeah, so which
can't
one
see
is the
it.
Phalcon? Oh, you can see it. All right. So it's pretty much high up. I can assure you of that.
Well, YAF is the third one.
Yeah, it looks like this one is here. The YAF. I think one of these two. But the first one is definitely pure PHP.
Right. And it's
Right?
like
You expect that.
90%.
You expect that
Yeah.
to be there. So I think Phalcon is somewhere here. I mean, I could just pull up my computer and just see the results, as I should have done initially, so that I can compare. Okay, so these are the graphs that you can see with Tech and Power. And yeah, okay, wrong password. Awesome. Alright, so where are we here? Alright, so that is actually a lie, what we said. So the first one is Phalcon. The second one is Phalcon Micro application. Third is YAF. Fourth is PHP 5 raw. Then you have PHP raw. Then you have fat-free Silex, Yi, HHVM, Code Igniters, Symfony, Silex, and so on and so forth. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. So that was for multiple queries. The other test that they run is JSON serialization, and you just return results back. So on this one, it doesn't show again very well. It's all right. So the big bars, the 100% is PHP 5. Right below that is PHP. Then you have YAF, and then bear in mind the PHP 5 offers 45.5 thousand. That's pretty much results, right? Phalcon is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one in line with a micro application. Then you have PHP Pixie, and then you have the main Phalcon application. To give you an idea, if the first one at 100% is 43,000. YAF, the third one, is at 41. Phalcon Micro is at 39,000. Pixie 36 and a half, and the main Phalcon is 36.1. So the differences are not huge, but still it's pretty much fast, right? And at least this particular slide shows you what raw PHP can help you with. Okay. So why performance matters? Who cares, right? I mean, Paul is paying the bill. I don't care. Like, he can just throw in $100 more a month, and he can get double the server. Well, this is what you need to ask yourselves. How much each application layer costs you, right? So, hello world in just a simple PHP file is 1 second. Hello world in called from a function in a PHP file is 1.5 seconds. I'm exaggerating the numbers, but I just want to show that you're probably talking about nanoseconds, maybe picoseconds here. But multiply that by the requests that you have, multiply that by the layers that you're going to have. So, hello world from a class that has a function in it that echoes hello world, again, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Throw in a framework on top of that. Throw in database interaction, throw in caching, throw queuing mechanisms, throw all sorts of bits and pieces, a mail server, that could potentially slow your application down by just the network layer. The other the other mail server did not respond. What do you do? Do you offload it in a different process? You know, all these little layers, you have to make sure that you account for them. And the thinnest the layer, the fastest the layer, the better is going to be your application to add more layers and then add more stuff. So what is the real bottleneck of your application? A lot of people turn around and say, no, it's not the framework. At some point, yeah, your framework will be a bottleneck. In the grand scheme of things, it might not be that much because you might convince your boss to throw in $1,000 more per month to upgrade the servers. But how many of those $1,000 can you actually throw? There is a time that you cannot scale anymore because you've reached peak. There's a time that your boss could turn around and say, well, you know what? I will throw another $1,000 to fix the servers, but you're fired. Because I'm not going to be paying you, I'm going to be paying for the servers. So it's these things that you do see in the community, in the industry, that people do not think about. So can you sacrifice your performance? And all these things that I wrote. Upgrade the server, that fixed it. Oh, suppress all the errors, all the PHP notices. Who cares, right? These are not errors; they are just warnings. Well, what is the constant of the error? E_error. What is the constant for the warning? E_warning. What's the E stand for? It's not an error. Okay. So it's not a critical application. The user can wait. So if the user clicks on something and you see that little spinner, even if you see the Nyan cat running around, chances are the user is going to shut the browser down and just go home and do whatever. Multiple servers from Google and all that. Even now, Google penalizes your site in their search result if your site is not fast. They penalize it if you don't have an HTTPS certificate. They penalize it if it doesn't respond close to 70% of the speed of all websites. So yeah, speed matters. It matters. Performance matters. You have to make your application as fast as possible, right? So I mentioned these things before. I'm just going around everywhere. So I haven't prepared for this presentation. It's just from the heart. I love you guys. So to summarize, we have LTS support. This is the real date, 2019. Okay. We have PHP 7, and yes, it was very painful, especially for me, because I would ask X, hey, can we have this done? Well, I'm gonna work on this on the weekend. Okay, so I would go on social media and say, well, guys, we should have something next week. Then next week would come, the week after that, and of course, the people that listen to me are saying, hey, what is this horse manure that you keep on throwing, where is it? And I go back and say, guys, we need to fix this. This weekend I'm gonna work. Okay, more week. Well, fool me once, fool me twice. After a little while, I just started going like, we're working hard on this, we don't have a date right now. So I stopped giving out dates to people. Just because I didn't want some random developer driving by and stopping and say, hey, it's you over there. Luckily we have PHP 7. I'm so excited about this. We removed a lot of old and deprecated and duplicated APIs, and we refactored a lot of interfaces. More of this work will come on version 4 as well. We have identified certain areas that we're lacking types, and we need to clean up the interface a little bit more. So what we're also seeing is that the support is growing for Phalcon. If you want to compare Phalcon with another framework, you're not going to be able to. I mean, definitely we're not Laravel, we're definitely not Zen Framework, and we're definitely not Symfony. And I'm using these three guys because these are the big players, right? No disrespect to anybody. But what we do have is pretty much a bunch of fanatics that really love the framework, and they find it really easy and convenient to use. Now, if your cup of tea is Laravel, go nuts, right? Nobody's asking you to change your habits, but using a framework is initially a preference of X developers that talk to Y owner, or a team lead that decides it and says that's it, if you like it, if you don't leave. But sadly, it shouldn't be, right? It should always be, okay, what should we use? And you start with the language first. What is the application going to do? The application is going to do X, Y, Z. All right, well, is PHP going to serve our needs better than Ruby or C or any? And if you decide on PHP, then look at what, again, your needs are for PHP, and then choose your framework. Are you going to be better writing a framework on your own? Fine. Are you going to be better using Zen framework? Fine again. But it shouldn't be, oh, I blindly like X, and that's what I'm using. I've been guilty of this numerous times. I try to use Phalcon as much as possible, but I'm always open to ideas as to why a particular application could do this. All right? So, also with Phalcon 3, just to finish this slide, we're redoing all the documentation, trying as much as possible, producing more content of the community, and then aspire to be Laravel in the documentation. Kudos to them, they have excellent docs and videos and all that. Okay, so what is 4 gonna be? We have already a milestone for Phalcon 4 in GitHub. We have certain issues that we have identified. The biggest things for me, actually, because I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be looking at all of these things, is we need to put middleware in the main application. At the moment, middleware exists only in the micro application, and it works wonders. I love it. But it would be great to have it in the main application. And the middleware allows non-Zephyr people that know Zephyr, non-C people, non-Phalcon people, whatever, to just grab a piece of middleware that was written for Laravel, Zen framework, blah, 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 drop it in there and it works. So a lot of code collaboration will start happening with this. We already have the GitHub repository ready. So we're gonna go full bore on PSR support for cache, middleware, and messages. I think it's 14, 15, something like that. I don't remember which one is cache. 7 is middleware. Anyway, I keep on missing the numbers. So we also have active record versus data mapper. We want to move towards active record, but it's going to be quite a big thing for people to change. So, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to bring this in version 4 because it's a lot of work. But no matter what we do, both versions are going to be kept for quite a bit. And also, we're going to have a lot of PHP 7 enhancements. So look out for our changes. So, any questions? That was the presentation. Yay! I repeated myself a million times. Sorry about that, guys.
No, I think it came in a good order.
So, any questions?
My questions are they're like whole discussions.
Okay, well.
So we'll hold those off to a different time.
All right. One of the things that we really are thinking about, and personally I think that's the way forward. I've talked to Sergey quite a lot, and he did agree with me, but it's one thing to say something, and it's another thing to actually do it, right? So we want to thin Phalcon as much as possible. When I'm saying thin it, bare minimum. Okay, what do you need bare minimum to run a Hello World, an application? And somehow call that, let's say, Phalcon Core, right? And then you say, okay, well, now I want a database. Oh, okay. Well, all you have to do is just install the Phalcon/db or -db or -db MySQL. So you can only load the components that you want, ergo reducing the size of what's in memory.
Oh yeah.
So just the way PHP does it with its extensions, if you want encrypt, all you have to do is just type I want encrypt, right? And it installs it for you. Something like that. But we want to pretty much split it into manageable components that you can install. And of course the installation will have to be very transparent. And we have some ideas of how to create a meta package that if you just want to install Phalcon, it will install everything for you. Or if you want to install bits and pieces, you can do so. So the idea is to just make it as thin and as fast as possible. Because right now, think about it. You mentioned that you use Postgres, right? Let's say